They had just like this. They were like, here's the you can't. I'm like, man, ain't no way. Y'all threw away my child care.
Yes, we were. Pushing through. I was so glad he's done because he got thing about the skin of his tongue. I started had a 2008 and then the allergy came in. I started the allergy medicine. Allergy medicine didn't have a chance because the cold already set. That week, they called her today, and I called her tonight. And I got the healthy week that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we feel it always. Yeah, but I didn't have anybody that Chris is had no real serious kidney problems. I was just going to ask what he was doing here. We still have him, but he was on the first meal house, and he had and let everything be up and then try to reconnect a lot of it. Well, he's 74 going on 90.
Could you turn the air on? Because some of us that are voluptuous don't want to sweat. Yes, mother. Some of us that's heavy wasted want to not be melted. Honey, I don't care. Something crazy. I'm talking to everything. I've been wanting to say for 5 months. So be prepared. I got to speak.
Somebody else has already done all the hard things.
Mr. Council. How you doing? It's great to see you. How you doing, sir?
No, we.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is 6:00 p.m. Your meeting of the Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order. First item of business is invocation. We bring up to the podium Reverend Christopher Johnson of the historic All Saints Episcopal Church of Pontiac, Michigan, to deliver this evening's invocation.
As we begin our prayer, I would like to invite us in these prayers to hear the need for continued wisdom in the planning of our budgets as a city, for understanding and forbearance as we work with limited resources to attend to the many physical needs of caring for a city, and we pray for your wisdom upon our elected leadership. And with these prayers, I pray. Heavenly God, in your word, you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, this city, Pontiac, and all the cities of the earth. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Continue to send us honest and able leaders. Continue to enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, such that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men and women from different and varied countries with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. So we ask you to send down upon those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all the people of this city, Pontiac. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Johnson, and thank you, Councilman Parker, for lining up this evening's invocation. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Last week we did a broad moment of silence, so we have an accumulation of names, I'm sorry to say, so it is lengthy. But we offer up for our moment of silence the names of those our community has recently lost. We grieve with the family of Councilwoman Kathleen James on the passing of Paul Pee Wee Davenport Jr., Vinnie Boykins, age 92, Carol Beach Copico, Sharon Troxell Barcombe, Hilda Bass, Daryl Bright, Doris Bussell Harden, Theo Ted Carlson, Margot Collins Genero, Shirley Ann Davis, Donald Dortch, age 89, recently celebrated his 70th wedding anniversary, Lula Mae English, Gladys Figueroa, Michelle Harkins, a friendly face many knew at Kennedy's Irish Pub, Joyce Heiss, Joan Gates Tubbs, a great-grandmother to 52 great-grandchildren, Carol Joseph Stansel, Dolores Chamberlain Kelly, age 91, Pontiac High School graduate and a telephone operator and bookkeeper at Community National Bank, Gregory Landon, Mark Landry, Lee Mick Marino, Vietnam War veteran who earned many medals, Doris Martin, Carla Meyer, Mary Mount Ostrander, Eddie Phillips Jr., Ryan Pitts, 31 years old, previously missing for many months. His body has been found and he is now confirmed deceased. His name was offered last week as we were remembering those who have been missing. Carolyn Rawls Witherspoon, Tina Ray Lambert, Sally Schultz, resident of District 4 on Upland Avenue, Bernard Sieber, aged 101, a World War II veteran, Pontiac High School graduate, and was an owner of Hod's Radio and TV Sales and Service in Pontiac. Hilda Sheffer Norberg, age 91, was a secretary at Weaver School in Pontiac. Rondi Smith, Hazel Soares Armstrong, Denard Suber, Doran Sfonda, Margaret Them Arnold, age 93, Pontiac High School class of 1945. Sandra Thomas Dautremont, Marcus Dink Waller II, Margot Weaver, age 88, 2 days shy of her 58th wedding anniversary, and condolences to the Koblik family on the recent loss in their family. Please join us for a moment of silence to remember the names that we've raised up and those that are in your neighborhoods and families as well. Thank you. You, of course, may be seated. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Arrington, Goodman, James, McGinnis,
Present.
Nicholson,
Here.
Parker, Rutherford.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Quorum being established, is there a motion to excuse council members Carrington and Goodman for personal reasons from the meeting?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Rutherford. That motion before us. I will say we are delighted to have Councilwoman Rutherford join us back from the victory lap in Washington, D.C. for Howard University's graduation for her beloved daughter Mariah, as well as her technical birthday. But we are grateful to have her here for the celebration of her birthday this evening.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion before us to excuse council members Carrington and Goodman? Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Nicholson, seconded by Parker. The motion before us, the agenda as prepared. Are there any questions, clarifications, motions to amend? Councilwoman Rutherford.
Question, just a point of clarity. If things are mentioned that are not on the agenda, are we able to speak to those things openly?
Well, we could either add a discussion, or it could be in closing comments, or if it's related to a business item, that of course can be brought up during that time.
Okay, so it's coming from the executive side, so if they mention it, then can it be discussed openly? That's what my question is.
Is it on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda.
If it's not on the agenda and you want to be certain you can discuss it this evening, the best bet now is to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a discussion.
I make the motion to amend the agenda to talk about new hires.
All right, so a new number 10, so a second discussion item that states discussion on City of Pontiac new hires. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list exhausted. Right now is the amendment of adding that discussion item on City of Pontiac new hires. Roll call on amending the agenda to add that. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries, so the agenda is amended and all the other numbers correspondingly move down one. Are there any other discussions, clarifications, questions, or amendments on the agenda before us? Hearing no further discussion, the motion before us is adoption of this evening's agenda as presented with the amendment that was just adopted reflected. Roll call on adoption, Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We are now at the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Nicholson, seconded by Rutherford.
Thank
I don't know, I was being really extra with that pronunciation.
Okay.
Seconded by Rutherford. So that motion is before us. It's not a debatable motion, so we move into a roll call vote on approving tonight's consent agenda, which has 4 sets of council meeting minutes, including subcommittee minutes. Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
Motion carries. We're now at subcommittee reports. Since we've had a few of our colleagues not with us this evening, we will go to those subcommittee chairs that are with us in alphabetical order of the subcommittee, Economic Development, Housing and Planning. For the month of May, we had our subcommittee meeting. It's always the first Monday of every month from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the Legislative Conference Room. It's an open meeting and accessible to all. That meeting took place on the beginning of this month. We reviewed all of the open commercial, industrial, residential developments, discussed broadly some of the policy changes and budget needs and staffing needs to ensure that economic development, housing, and planning is progressing very effectively for the city. Great deal of work has been done, but a great deal more to do. And on a related note, the Planning Commission had, since our last subcommittee reports, the Pontiac Planning Commission met on May 4th and had one proposal before them. It was the property at 108 West Lawrence and 118 West Lawrence, known more recently as the Salvation Army store, but is presently vacant. The commission voted to recommend a conditional zoning amendment, which will next come before us at the City Council, likely at the May 17th meeting, so next week. So that is a property that's proposing a grow operation, a marijuana grow operation, and so those petitioners will come here for the next step in the process. The next Pontiac Planning Commission meeting is a special meeting on May 23rd, and want to make sure the community is aware. The purpose of that meeting is for an initial presentation on plans for the shores of Crystal Lake, a mixed-use residential complex. This property covers a portion of the former Lakeside Homes complex located in District 1, and it's adjacent to the city's Crystal Lake Park, and the proposal would dramatically improve the public's access to our lake and our park. So please, the community is welcome to come to that meeting, hear about the initial proposal, which will come before the Planning Commission later in the year, likely in the summer, for a preliminary site plan review, among other further considerations that may come to the Planning Commission or the Council, depending on the nuances of their proposal. So on behalf of the subcommittee that's Economic Development, Housing, and Planning, I wanted to highlight those specific items since it's dealing with relevant items that are come before the City Council or that the community can learn more about because they are substantial proposed developments. All right, next subcommittee, Finance and Personnel, Subcommittee Chair, Councilman Nicholson.
Our Finance and Personnel Committee meetings are the second Thursday of every month in the Legislative Conference Room at 2 o'clock. We have standing agenda items that include reviewing the previous month's year-to-date financials. We go through those financial statements, ask questions. The Finance Director and the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor are there to answer those questions. We did have a member of the community there, which was nice. We're able to take a deep dive and really review how those finances, when they hit, and what our interests are in, coming in the future to review. In addition to that, we go through personnel matters. We did have an update regarding the HR services contract, how that's coming along, what the status of that is. As you are aware, in the last meeting, we did meet and vote on the hiring of a new HR director, so that has been moving very swiftly and moving forward. We also had a deep dive into our millages, so we're able to learn more about how the millages have worked historically and how the mayor plans to present a budget to the full council regarding those millages moving forward. So it's a very productive meeting. Our next meeting is this Thursday, Legislative Conference Room, 2 p.m. All are welcome.
Thank you. The next subcommittee report, Law in the Courts, Councilman William Parker Jr., the chair of that subcommittee.
Thank you, Brother President. The Law and Court Subcommittee meets every fourth Monday of the month. For April, we talked about certainly and gave an overview and expectation of the expungement event that took place at the United Shore Sports Complex on the 30th of April. The expectation was there would be over 200 people that have applied and registered for it to be expunged, and there was at least over 100 lawyers and assistants who was coming to help, but they were certainly looking for some more volunteers to come and help. And the event was and I'm gonna give a quick, the event was a resounding success, and we just want to thank everyone who participated in that. We talked about the possibility of having our conviction integrity unit come in, present to the council. We feel that there's some information that they certainly can share with us, and we can certainly partner with them in finding out how we can work together as the county and as the city gets more involved in those activities. We spoke and talked about the 50th District Court and the installation of their new firewall, because the old firewall was obsolete, and so they had to put in a new firewall because there was certainly some concern about people hacking into the existing firewall they had. We discussed juror parking, and certainly making sure that everybody knew where the expectation for jurors are to park, and to make sure that that is still free parking for those who are jurors for the city. We discussed the blight tickets, and certainly we thank the department, the DPW department, for continuing to do what they do in code enforcement, for being available and involved and active and making sure that we try to keep the city as clean and neat as possible and remove all blight. We talked about how to make repeat users more accountable, and whether we can, after a certain period of time when they just seem to want to come and pay a fine and think that's all of it, can we put a little bit more teeth into our blight process, in that if you have gotten to the $500 level and you continue to violate the system, then maybe we refer you back to the courts and let that become a legal issue. We talked about the remediation of properties and how that occurs. And then one of the other issues that I think we had on the agenda was, again, talking about how we deal with the various issues and how we partner a little bit to get more and handle some of the other issues that comes out of our 50th District Court. The meeting adjourned about 5:23, and again, we meet on the 4th Monday of each month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Kathleen James, Subcommittee Chair for Parks, Recreation, and Public Works.
Yes, we have our meeting on the 4th Monday of each month. Our next meeting is May the 23rd, which is the third Monday, because the fourth Monday is a holiday, Memorial Day weekend. So we will have our meeting for the month of May on the 23rd. We are closer to having a new Parks and Recreation managers on board. The staffing for those positions should be in place by summer of 2022. The administration has said that they will introduce a plan for a new recreation center at a later date. We have received the budget. The budget, though, did not go into the details for a new youth recreation center, but the administration has said that they have established a date that presentation will be given. So more to come on that. We talked about the grass cutting schedule in the parks for this summer. That schedule, grass cutting, as you know, in the city of Pontiac is a contracted service. And for the 2022 year, it will continue to be. The plan is by next summer that we will have that brought in-house. But for this summer, we will continue to use contractual services. And we have increased the services, so the parks will be cut at a more frequent time frame, which should give us better appearing parks. The trash collection schedule has been modified to better align with our visitor traffic and just the overall needs of the city. The Ruth Peterson Senior Center has been undergoing a major resurfacing of their parking lot, and also the work on both centers, the work inside of both of our centers will start. It probably has already started, but it will start very shortly to implement the grant upgrades that are planned for both those centers, both Ruth Peterson and the Bowen Center. As far as Public Works, the street resurfacing project on West Columbia, it started on time, but it will be delayed a little bit due to the fact that Water Resource Department has asked to do some sewer line upgrades on Columbia. So that has been added to the scope of work, and it will somewhat delay that project for us. So people who live on West Columbia, that project will be delayed somewhat because there will be some sewer line replacements as part of that work. I think that's it. Our meeting was closed at 1. It started at noon and it closed at 1:15, and that's my update.
Thank you. That concludes subcommittee reports. We are now at special presentation. Do we have Conviction and Integrity Unit Director Beth Greenberg Morrow with us this evening? All right. That presenter not with us. We move now to discussion items. The first is supporting Pontiac's small businesses and entrepreneurs. I want to give the floor to the administration to provide an update on small business efforts, including the town hall that's forthcoming in the community.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I saw our Economic Development Director, Lynette Phillips, here somewhere. It looks like maybe she is entering now just on time.
Oh,
It's time for your special presentation regarding supporting Pontiac small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Hello, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. The City of Pontiac, we're very excited to announce that we're kicking off a small business program with a town hall this Saturday. It's going to be at the Robert Bowens Community Center on 52 Bagley. And what we're doing is we're a couple of different things, but we're working collaboratively with several of our partners. We have an arrangement with one consultant in particular that has been really pretty much boots on the ground, working with small businesses, and we're really pretty delighted to work closely with T.R. Ramsey, and I'm just going to mention that as one of our partners that we're working with. We're also working very closely with Main Street, with the county, the MEDC, the Community Foundation, and the various organizations that are actually focusing on small businesses. We're looking at, well, first of all, we thought we only had about 600 small businesses when we provided the reopening kits. This was back in June of 2020. And we actually had about 1,200 businesses, and that's because they weren't all registered with the city. They weren't registered. The ones that were registered were because they were brick and mortar and required inspections to their building. But we had several other entrepreneurs and small businesses that were at various different levels. So our plan now is to, one, have people registered. We're looking at reducing our business application fee and make that fee more business friendly to our entrepreneurs. And then from there, as they're registered, then we want to work more cohesively with them so that we can provide, help them grow their businesses or sustain. And by that, we'll have like small business boot camps. They'll have access to grants and programs that they may not have access to if they weren't a registered business. But that's going to be one of our requirements because we want them to go through a process where they have assistance with their applications, their business plans, their documentation. And we're going to also, from this kickoff, really go down deep into more subject matter expert seminars, or I'll call them sessions, where we may focus on fundraising and we've got partners with Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, PNC Bank, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses for funding programs. The county and SEED are also other resources that will provide grants and loans. But again, to go through the application process, we'll focus on marketing and social media, accounting, bookkeeping, workforce development, food businesses. If you have a food truck or a food business, you may need your county Safe Serve food certification from the county. You may need your nutritional labeling. We've got a partnership with Michigan State University for that. So we're looking to really focus more on helping businesses, be it a current or prospective business, grow and sustain. Our goal for the city is for people to hire people. We want people to pay income taxes, generate more revenue for the city, but we want our small businesses to thrive and grow in the city. Are there any questions?
Thank you. This is a discussion item, so Councilwoman Rutherford, you have the floor.
How much are we paying these consultants to put on these forums?
We're not paying anybody anything. Really, that's why we're working collaboratively. Like I said, we don't have any contracts. We don't have anything other than let's work collaboratively, cohesively. Let's, instead of everybody doing something different, we're sharing our information. We're just being more transparent. We're upgrading our website here at the city. So we would like to have links to, the various organizations and information so that our information may be on one site, but a link to someone else's site, so that, again, the businesses don't have to go all over everywhere. We're just trying to work together so there's not one primary source, but a source where we're sharing information.
Follow up. So what if we have someone or individual that is not computer savvy? Will we have volunteers on call there to show them how to work through the paperwork? Because 9 times out of 10, some of the business owners here don't know how to properly use the systems that are set up in place, and they don't always know how to go about it in the right way. So are you going to have people there volunteering to help with
And
that?
again, that we're having this meeting, in person this Saturday. Mayor wanted to address something.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize that this is an initial kickoff meeting, and so we are going to touch on a number of themes. There will be, we hope, some helpful takeaways from this. But this is the initial kickoff of what we plan to be a series of events and engagement with small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I think at this kickoff, part of what we hope to do is hear from local small businesses and entrepreneurs about what their needs are. Get their input. We're going to also provide some information to them that we think will be helpful. But we're going to do deeper dives or more robust events with small businesses and entrepreneurs in the future. Although we're not currently engaged with any consultants as a city, we may at some point think that's a good idea. But obviously that's something, if we were to ever pay anybody to provide services to businesses or entrepreneurs in terms of how-to classes, that's obviously something we would bring before council to approve a specific contract with a specific vendor or consultant or service provider.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I hope to see you Saturday.
Other council members who wish to have the floor? Councilman Nicholson.
Thank you. I'm, as you know, a small business owner downtown. For the last 3 years, with COVID and all that's happened, I did certainly feel like I was on an island. But for the support of Main Street, Pontiac, and Oakland County, we hung by the skin of our teeth. And I can't imagine, having our history, with 93 years in business, that we've accumulated a good amount of loyal customers, and many of our new small business owners haven't had that opportunity to amass that brand and that familiarity. For me, in navigating all of those channels and all of the difficult processes and finding where all those resources are, it was that too many people said they were the place offering the service, and they weren't. They were the place offering a website that told you where to go for the service. I think it gets so confusing because we have all of these organizations like the Chamber and the Main Street Group and Downtown Development Authorities and Economic Development at the city. I think really, because I won't be able to be there, I'll be at Mount Hope planting flowers all day, is just to narrow that scope. To find where those services really are being provided, and if the city is going to have a hand in economic development, really shine the light on places like the Chamber and the Main Street Group that already have these one-to-one relationships and direct funding partners, because the red tape that it took to find out where actually the bottom line and who had the checkbook, because when we were really struggling, what would have really been helpful to me was to have our permitting process be smooth. Right, and to have those resources be available, and not know that the city didn't provide the resources, the county provided the resources, and then they came through the city, and people were arguing about who would give out the box. I mean, to me, it was a power grab and an attention get, and we need to get away from that. We need to say, this is the person who has the checkbook. This is the person who can help you out. So, as many of I know we're gonna have a lot of ideas. I know all of these resources are available because I took advantage of every single last one of them. I think what you said, Director, I think that is fantastic in saying let's have the city be a hub of where are these resources, where can you find them, and how can we make sure that someone can hold your hand through that process.
One of our pieces that we're going to provide Saturday, and it will be available, but it's a list of all of the partners and what they do.
Awesome.
It doesn't have all of their contact information, but it has who they are and what they do. And again, going forward, we want to just be a resource, and work. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to do everything, but we want to share information. Again, when our website, will be one source of information, a link to Main Street, a link to the county. And from there, we want them to, reciprocate, but we want to streamline the resources and the sources of information for the business owners.
Great.
So your point is
Thank
very
you.
well taken.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very much appreciate that.
Others that wish to have the floor? That concludes this discussion item. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We are now at City of Pontiac new hires. Councilman Rutherford, you added that discussion item. If you want to have the floor first, or anything you want to expound on.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Point of order, Mr. President. Shouldn't that come after agenda address?
The order of the agenda has discussion items before recognition
okay.
of elected officials and agenda address. We amended the agenda to add a second discussion item after the first discussion item.
Okay, got it.
Very nice.
Councilman Rutherford, you have the
Thanks.
floor.
Let's try this again. So today we received an email discussing new hires that Mayor Grimo has appointed. Prior to this privilege, just for the audience to understand and know that I asked for a legal opinion on these hires because I tend to think that some people that are being hired should not be hired because it's a conflict of interest. I was proven that that is not true. However, I want the citizens to understand that when you come to me asking about why these individuals were hired, that I did my due diligence, and that's why I'm bringing it to the floor. When we ran on as a city council person, as a mayor, and everybody else, we said that we would not do business as usual. I do not support several of the hires that you have on there, including, for example, Ms. Tanisha Stevens-Taylor, who is some kin to our deputy mayor. I think that we need to have this an open discussion. We need to see how they were hired. What was the process? And even though we cannot approve of anybody that you're hiring, we can say that we don't approve it. I also don't approve or nor support the hiring of Angela Powell. I believe that because she serves as a county commissioner, in my opinion, it is not doing the due diligence of the people. I understand that because of that, that won't make me popular, but that's how I feel, and there are other citizens who feel so also. And if it's not put out in the forefront, later on down the line, we're going to be said that we did not present this to the citizens. And I do not want to be taken aback or attacked saying, did you ask these questions? Because I did. This is not a personal thing. This is a business thing, and we have to do business in the right way and in the right manner. And I understand we're going to say, like the email told me, hey, we're not friends. I don't believe that is true, but that's what you said in the email to me. And so I'm saying it publicly so that everybody know what my opinion is. I don't think it was right. I don't think it was fair. I don't think it was just. And so before you start yelling at me about who he hired, go yell at the mayor. That's it.
Others that wish to have the floor on this discussion item. Mayor Grimo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I do want to speak to the process involved here. We posted all of these positions very openly and publicly. We conducted interviews for all of these positions. We did not prejudge any of the candidates, and we looked, as we've pledged to from the outset, solely at qualifications and competency. In regard to County Commissioner Angela Powell, she had applied for the Community Relations Specialist position. She was by far the most qualified for the position. She is the only person who has ever done community relations on behalf of a governmental entity. She did it not only during her time on my staff while I was a state representative, but she did it going way back to 2007 through 2010 for the Michigan House of Representatives. That's before I even really knew Angela Powell, or knew her well anyway. I knew her as somebody in the community, as many of us did. But my connection with Ms. Powell has been as a former member of my staff. And again, there was not a single other applicant who had experience doing community relations on behalf of a governmental entity. The county legal counsel issued a legal opinion saying there is no conflict of interest about an elected official working at the city when that elected official is a county elected official. Our city attorney, we asked our city attorney to look into it as well. They issued a legal opinion saying that there is no conflict of interest here. And I would also note that elected officials work for other levels of government all the time. A city commissioner in Royal Oak long worked for U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow. There are countless other examples we could point to. And so not only is this often the case, and not only did we get not one, but two legal opinions from two separate entities clearly indicating there is no conflict of interest, but she was by far the most qualified applicant for the position. In regard to Tanisha Taylor, who was hired to be the youth recreation manager, we had two really outstanding applicants. Neither the deputy mayor nor I were involved in the interview process, but the HR department that was involved in those interviews said that two candidates stood out far and away above any other applicants. Those candidates were Tanisha Taylor and Robert Birch. Tanisha Taylor has been hired as the youth recreation manager, and Robert Birch has been hired as the assistant youth recreation manager. We're very, very fortunate and blessed to have two such incredibly talented people working on behalf of our young people here in the city when they start in the next couple of weeks. So we're very, very excited about that. Our deputy mayor did not have a role in that process. I'm the one who made the decision to hire Tanisha Taylor, period. I also want to note that we live in a community here, and I think all of you know this, where everybody is related to everybody. And so if I'm not able to hire somebody here at City Hall who's related to somebody else who works here at City Hall, we're really narrowing the job opportunities for Pontiac residents here at the city. The other thing I would note is that the city charter actually speaks to family members being hired. And it doesn't say that family members can't be hired. What it says is that if someone applies for a job at City Hall and they are a family member of either the first degree or the second degree of somebody else who works at City Hall, that that person who currently works at City Hall cannot be involved in the hiring process. Deputy Mayor Stevens and Ms. Taylor are cousins. They actually are not either first degree or second degree family members. So because cousins are third degree family members. And so this provision of the city charter doesn't even apply in this case. But nonetheless, in the interest of transparency and accountability and high ethics, Deputy Mayor Stevens was not involved in the hiring process. Unlike other positions, I'm the one who made the decision. I signed the offer letter. I signed all of the personnel paperwork. And perhaps most importantly, until we hire a Parks and Recreation Department director, Tanisha Taylor is going to report directly to me, not to the deputy mayor. And I put that in her offer letter. So we have been very above board in this process, beyond what's even called for by the city charter. But our administration is committed and dedicated to transparency and integrity. We have upheld that and will always uphold that for the benefit of the people of our great city.
Councilman Parker, and then Councilman Rutherford.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, as I looked at the listing, I am familiar with a whole lot of the names that was on the listing, and I know just from personal opinion, I would have liked to have seen some in a different position, but that's just my opinion. And I recognize we all have an opinion. But at the end of the day, we have to select the person that is most suited for the job at hand, regardless of our opinion. And so, and one of the things we certainly want to make sure that we do is try to give those who are in leadership the tools to do leadership and to perform the tasks they've been given to perform. We don't always agree. We don't have to always agree, but we certainly have to give them the tools for success. And so as I looked at the list, I certainly had some personal opinions on it, but I thought, you know, let's make sure that we get people who are first qualified, and I think we did that. Let's make sure we got some people who have some energy and some zeal and some dedication and commitment to the task at hand, and I think we've done that. Let's get some people who are interested in moving this city forward without impunity or prejudice, and I believe we have done that. And so thank you, Mayor, for sending us the list and letting us know, because if I'm not mistaken from the charter, we don't have a vote on that. I don't think we do we?
Correct.
Okay, so there we go. Thank you.
Councilman Rutherford has
No,
the floor.
we actually don't have an opinion or a vote on that, but we do have the right to state when we think things don't sit in well and in order, and so that's what I chose to do. I chose to use my right as a legislator to say what I felt, because I get calls about things that the executive branch does. Some things are mostly, they like it, and when people don't, I ask questions. So I will say to the mayor, as I stated earlier, maybe you didn't hear me say it, that you did give us an opinion, and that I did say that it wasn't a conflict of interest. But what I am doing is, because when the citizens ask me this question, I don't want them to think that I didn't put up a fight for what I thought was in the best interest of the city, because that's what I'm doing. It's not in the best interest of Tim Grimal. It's not in the best interest of Kafani Stevens. It's in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Pontiac, and especially in District 1, which is the highest voting district in the city. And so we dictate what happens in the city. And so until people change otherwise, I'm Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford. And what I'm going to do is, when Quincy Stewart calls me, or Bill Maxey calls me, or Michael Jackson calls me and says, hey, Mel, I don't like this agenda, I'm going to answer the question. It is not to ruffle your feathers. It is to challenge us to be above board and above reproach. And that's the reason why I did it. Know the difference. It's not to fight against you. It's to make sure that we do everything, as the Bible says, in decency and in order.
Councilman Nicholson.
So I want it for the purpose of the community conversation. I think, you know, I'm here to do what the charter says, and I think we did that really well. I think that from an HR perspective, as the chair of the personnel subcommittee, a policy regarding nepotism is exactly what our city charter currently lays out, as far as direct reporting and the level to which that person is a relative. So I think that is well within our. I want to also point out that our hiring process right now is being maintained and supported by a contractor currently that is from Okemos, Michigan. She's not in Pontiac. So the relationships that we all share and the knowledge that we have of these particular individuals was not at the onset of that process as well. I personally know Angela Powell. I think she's one of the most qualified community organizers we have in the city of Pontiac. I'm particularly excited that we have somebody who is fluent in American Sign Language that's going to be here at City Hall. I think that's something we've not had, in my knowledge, maybe ever. But you know, as far as the changing the reporting structure, this happens all the time. I've not been at an organization as the HR director and not seen someone be hired because they were the absolute most qualified person in the process, and had the organization not decide maybe this person should be here and maybe we should consider a structure. So I'm elated to have these people on board. I did definitely push the administration to move as quickly as possible in youth recreation and our personnel committee. I'm glad that they did that. And I thank you for involving us to the extent that you did. It certainly wasn't required.
Others who wish to run the floor on this discussion item? Hearing no further discussion, we move now to recognition of elected officials. We have two of the Pontiac School Board trustees, including President Gil Garrett and Trustee Anisha Hanna, here this evening. Welcome to the body.
Whew. How do you follow that up, right? Thought I was at a board meeting. Okay. Good evening, Council President, Council, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, citizens, City of Pontiac. I'm coming to you today under the auspice of President Gil Garrett, the Pontiac School District. I have with me Trustee Hannah. She's going to start with the greeting, and we want to talk about some things that's happening over at the Pontiac School District. We will be soon having our dais meet with your dais. We're going to invite you out to lunch. We're trying to get some dates and schedules. So Councilwoman Kathleen James, we have not forgotten that. We are working on that. But there's some things I think you're going to be excited about that we're going to share, that the city is going to be excited about, and our partnership with the city. And so, Trustee Hannah.
Thank you, President Garrett. Good evening, Councilman. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, City of Pontiac residents. I am Anisha Hanna, and I am happy to be here just on behalf of the Pontiac School District to share with you some things that we have happening within our district. As we all know, we all believe that our students deserve the best. And as a school district, it is our responsibility to make sure that we give them the best in a quality education. So we are working hard to rebuild the trust of our parents, to rebuild and re-engage our students after they have went through a whole year, almost 2 years of virtual learning, now re-engaging them in a classroom full time. So we do have our work cut out for us, but we're also working hard to rebuild, attract, and to retain our teachers to educate our students. But we are confident that despite these challenges, that we are heading and moving in the right direction on behalf of our students. So today, we just want to share some of the things that we're doing to help move our district forward. And many of these things we know couldn't be done in the past because of the deficit and other challenges. But now we are able to provide upgrades to our classrooms, our buildings, our elementary school, our middle schools, and particularly our high school buildings too. But most importantly, we are excited about the changes that we're making to our curriculum, particularly our high school as it relates to college and career readiness for our students. What this looks like is we are offering college and career pathways, which will be housed in our upcoming newly developed career pathway section, which is inside of our Pontiac High School. This college and career pathway curriculum, it will increase the number of elective courses available to both our Pontiac High School students as well as our ITA students, and provide them with skills and trainings needed for employment and for local businesses. Now, why is this so important? It's important because, for one, it will help us to, all of our students coming in ninth grade, we want to make sure that we're able to, as they start ninth grade, we want to make sure that we're able to graduate them and put them in position that they can gain success, whether it leads to a skills trade opportunity, 2-year or 4-year opportunity, or a career opportunity. This will lead them to higher paying jobs upon graduation. This will increase their elective options, their level of engagement, and just the motivation to learn. We will brand, this will help us to brand and to make the Pontiac High School competitive by using college or dual enrollment and pathways as a leverage for our students. This will also provide our local businesses with highly skilled employees, and most importantly, it's an opportunity to provide our students with the careers of today and for tomorrow. So we are grateful that we have the administration working hard on these initiatives, as well as the teachers within our district that are standing by us, that have been committed and dedicated to our students, not just now, but in the past, and as they continue to do each day. So we are excited to not only have them working with us, but just to support them in the initiatives that they need as well. So one of the things that we're doing is actually, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we will be acknowledging a lot of these individuals that have been exceptional working with our students and for this district. So actually on tomorrow, we will have a teacher staff appreciation event where we are able to acknowledge all of these individuals. So we just wanted to let you know that we are committed to the city, we are committed to our students, and we are working hard to make sure that we're able to provide them with a quality education. So we wanted to say thank you to City Council as well as the residents for sticking by us in our hard times, but know that we are not where we want to be, but we're not where we were, and we're definitely working towards getting to where we know we need to be. And I'll let President Garrett share more.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So one of the main things I actually want to touch point on, and not just because he's here, but Quincy Stewart speaks about this often a lot, and we've had this conversation, but our students need to know about our history. And our history in Pontiac sometimes get overshadowed by, a lot of things. I'll just stop right there. But what the Pontiac School District has done, and I think you, President McGinnis, you had started this initiative, is African American Literature course will be a certified course that's already certified through the state of Michigan for our kids for graduation. I'll repeat that again, because sometimes we don't get excited about certain things that you asked us to do, and we're doing it. So African American Literature, which is not a required course in every other district, it is required for graduation for the Pontiac School District, because they need to know our history. So we're going to start there. Thank you. When we talk about expansion in programs and our kids, and we have our chief of police, Conway Thompson, thank you for your service in our district as well with our students. But when you have individuals who come and talk about and say what's not going on in the Pontiac School District, or things that they may be assuming that they're going on, with the $146 million that you guys passed through the millage, we're able to upgrade all of our playgrounds at 9 of our schools. So coupled with what you guys are doing in the parks, our kids are going to have more green space, more space to go out and play, more space to go out and have fun and enjoy the city of Pontiac. That's another, again, that came up under the William Carrington and Michael McGinnis regime. So we're going to move down to when we're talking about grooming our own program. There's been a problem in teachers. There's been a problem with getting teachers. So what we did with Wayne State is our parapros and our substitute teachers get to get their certifications through Wayne State, but we took it a step further. We say, okay, Mrs. Davenport, can you come on down and give us something for our students? So when our students get ready to graduate out of high school, they can graduate with a teacher certification and get right into teaching in the Pontiac School District to kind of grow our own program. And that's starting with Davenport University. That's another thing, an initiative that started up under the President McGinnis and Council President Pro Tem William Carrington. When you talk about the theater renovations, and here's where I get excited about arts in Pontiac. When I first got to Pontiac, I was 23 years old. I am now 47. I got elected at 2006. I've been serving on the police department for 23 years. So I am Pontiac homegrown, learned, and groomed. So when we talk about the ups and downs about Pontiac, understands I've been accepted to some of those ups and downs. So I'm very passionate about talking about the renovations that's going to happen in both our theater programs, that we did a $2.3 million to bring them all up to code, have all of the state of art. So when our kids are doing plays and other places, we just had 2 of our students from Pontiac Middle School and 2 from the high school participate in a Disney Moana play. I didn't even know what a Moana was at the Strand Theater. They actually excelled and did excellent. But what it would be if you had a whole cast of kids that said, hey, I know I'm in theater and this is what I wanted to express. So we're doing those renovations as well. Coupled with a $180,000 renovation, we saw what the city of Pontiac were doing and what you were doing as far as renovation, your website, your cable. And so we decided to put our money toward that structure as well, and also bridge a program so our kids can do podcasting and media and arts and get into the things of right now, be entrepreneurs in their own professional right to learn music right now. And that's something that we were coupling. I don't want to give it all away of just partnering and what we're going to be doing with the city of Pontiac. But when I just need everybody to understand that I have not done, I want to apologize, because a lot of times I'm in the back scenes and I'm sitting around and I'm doing 2 jobs and I don't get up here and I don't speak a lot. And I'm just in the, and I'm assuming that you kind of know what's going on, but you don't. So every week what we decided to do, because we were sparked really to do this, is that we're going to take our time to come in here and tell you everything we're doing and our upgrades as we're doing them. Whether we take our 3 minutes, do a presentation, but every week, if it's me, if it's Trustee Hannah, if it's 60 other trustees, we're going to come and talk about what's going on in the Pontiac School District. So the citizens, they can hear what's going on. And those who don't quite get it, that they understand that you can't mention a Pontiac School District unless you understand that the work that we're putting in. We went from $56 million, and we're about to come over a budget that says, I think we had $10 million surplus in 2022, going into 2023, from $56 million. So I want to say this to the council, and I want to say this directly to the mayor. Since January 4th, we've been here 126 days. I had it down to the science too. I really want to say this, and then I'll be done. I'm sorry, Council President. I get a little touched when somebody says what you didn't do or what somebody else didn't do. And the same people that helped move our district forward from over there are now sitting as your president and your pro tem. The same people who have assisted you from the state and their parents have gave into Pontiac, they're now sitting in as your mayor and your deputy mayor. So from my first end, 126 days, 18 hours and 47 minutes and 26 seconds, that I have watched you work. I watched everybody on this council work. I watched you do the work. So I'm going to ask, and I humbly ask you to do this. Allow the people their 3 minutes, which you do. That's 3 minutes. That's 4 Tuesdays out of the month. That's 12 minutes. Allow them their 12 minutes out of the month of fame, because they will never, ever be able to do what you do. in them 125 days, 18 hours, 47 minutes, and 59 seconds of work that you've done thus far. And I'll see you next week.
Are there any other elected officials wishing to address the City Council this evening? Thank you both for your time. We are now at agenda address, 2-minute time limit to speak on items on this evening's agenda. In Pro Tem Carrington's absence, District 1's Councilwoman will help us with the reading of the names. You have the floor.
Yay. Dr. Deidre Waterman, she's addressing the Small Business Town Hall. You have 2 minutes.
Also, it deals with the discussion you had about supporting small Pontiac businesses as well.
I'm sorry.
Yes, well, no, I didn't put that down, so, and congratulations to Mariah. Congratulations, all right. Yes, I wanted to bring to you some information from the Governor's Black Leadership Advisory Council, of which I am a newly appointed member, about a virtual town hall they're having on policy initiatives to support businesses. This is going to be Thursday, May 12th at 4 p.m. It's virtual. I did pass along this information to the emails of our city council people as well as to you, Deputy Mayor. It is also on my website, Dr. Deirdre Waterman, Dr. DR, and then my name. And it's also on the website, the state website. But this council was created in December 2020 by Governor Whitmer to help to close the racial equity gaps in the access of minority businesses to the benefits of supporting small businesses. And the council works by a policy recommendation. So I also included the 11 policy recommendations that the council had made, and these are in 4 areas that we're charged with doing that with, in terms of education, health, community health and justice, and business leadership. So that is very important to help to close the equity gaps that exist, to make sure that there is inclusion and gender as well as racial equity and the opportunities in the state of Michigan in these different areas. And so that is going to be discussed, the policy initiatives. And it's very important for us in this post-COVID area because she's very interested in the fact that the CARES money and the different money for COVID didn't get to a lot of our small businesses in Pontiac. They didn't know how to apply. The money was gone before they knew about it. So we want to establish that and tell people how to avail themselves of that funds. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Quincy Stewart for new city hires.
I've been coming on here 26 years. I used to get up out of that seat so fast. I'm grunting to get up now. I'm getting old. I just had some concerns, and this is full disclosure. The mayor and I have talked about this personally. I think that the position of the city public relations specialist, I wonder, is it because Angela Powell is a commissioner? Is this not the duplication of services in the sense that a county commissioner is already responsible for promoting the city and already is in a position to promote the city? And would it not be a more efficacious use of our dollars to have probably put out a wider net to find someone who also specializes in this? I don't doubt her qualifications because I don't know them, and I'm not gonna speak on that. But her position as a county commissioner already entails promotion of the city. It entails talking about the city. I must be really honest when I say that I have not seen her as a county commissioner doing much of that as a county commissioner. And I question whether or not that's going to really tie over into this position. Did you cast a wider net to find some more qualified people? So that's my really only problem with it. I don't think there's nepotism and all that kind of stuff, but I do think that this is possibly a duplication of services. Whether I'm assuming that you've hired her already, so this is really kind of after the fact. But that's where I'm at. I think it would have been a more efficacious way to dispense those funds, to find someone, and then encourage Angela Powell to do more in her position as a county commissioner.
That concludes the agenda address.
Oh,
That's it.
third name isn't here.
No, she left out.
Oh, okay. All right, that concludes agenda address. Thank you, Councilwoman Rutherford. We are now at ordinance amendment to Article 5, Boards and Commissions, Division 4, Arts Commission, to provide for the election in terms of chair, vice chair, and secretary. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Nicholson, seconded by Parker. Ordinance creation or amendments require 2 readings. So this is the first of at least 2 readings. This is a relatively straightforward matter, but the Arts Commission is one of the advisory boards and commissions that exists in our city, and the City Council is interested in expanding the number of advisory boards and commissions, including for a beautification commission, as well as a Parks and Recreation Commission. And as we're sort of basing how we move forward on what exists, we see that, and I served on the Arts Commission for 4 years as well, I knew this firsthand, the ordinance that spells out the existence of the Arts Commission just doesn't spell out how the leadership, you know, what are the positions, how long are they, how are they elected. So the language that's proposed for the addition to the ordinance is adding a 2-428, election of chair, vice chair, and secretary, and terms. That's the section headline. A, at the first regular meeting after the implementation of this ordinance, and subsequently at the first regular meeting of the Arts Commission held each calendar year, the Arts Commission shall elect the officer positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary. B, the terms of the foregoing officer positions shall be for a period of 1 year, through and including the next regular meeting of the Commission, subsequent to the 1-year period, until successor officers are elected at that regular meeting. So there are no term limits that we're implementing. If the commission chooses internally from one of their commissioners, somebody could hold one of those officer positions for multiple years. Really, the requirement is that it be one of the 11 commissioners who are serving on that commission. That's the main eligibility criteria, and the commissioners internally will make that decision on who they wish to have lead them. And so that's what we got. Any discussion on that ordinance change so far? This is the first reading, so it'll come before us at next week's meeting for further discussion and for a verdict from the City Council. Any further discussion? We don't need a motion to table or postpone because we inherently are required to have multiple readings, so that concludes reading round 1 for that amendment, ordinance amendment. Next is the Pontiac City Council resolution celebrating the community impact of Nick Mansour and Nick's Corner. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Parker, seconded by Nicholson. This is the resolution language. Whereas Mr. Nick Mansour, owner and operator of Nick's Corner Restaurant in Pontiac, has been devoted to feeding others and a dedicated part of our community for years, and has been rightfully recognized by many, including previous mayors and councils. And whereas Mr. Mansour has operated his Nick's Corner restaurant at 225 Auburn Avenue on the corner of Auburn and Paddock for 13 years, and previously operated popular restaurants in downtown Pontiac for over a decade before establishing Nick's Corner. And whereas his restaurant, his family, and Mr. Mansour personally have generously provided thousands of meals to Pontiac residents every year, delivering free holiday meals for so many on Thanksgiving, on Easter, and beyond, making his business a hub of kindness and caring when some of our neighbors need that morale boost and the hot meal the most. Whereas, over the years, the Nick's Corner establishment has been a gathering place for many community organizations, civic meetings, residents, families, and friends, and has been a great resource for Pontiac's East Side because of Mr. Mansour's willingness to share his space with the community and go the extra mile for others. And whereas this month marks the closure of Nick's Corner, as the number of in-person diners has not returned at the same volume following the pandemic, and that affordable meal rates of his menu items have been greatly impacted by inflation and supply chain woes. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Pontiac City Council, in partnership with Pontiac Mayor Tim Greimel and on behalf of all Pontiac citizens, hereby celebrates the decades of devoted work by Mr. Nick Mansour and his generous spirit for helping others. And for the resolve, the City Council acknowledges the positive impact Mr. Mansour and his restaurants especially Nick's Corner, have made in the lives of Pontiac residents, and particularly had on the neighborhoods near his Auburn Avenue location. And further resolved, we express the sincere gratitude of all Pontiac citizens to Mr. Mansour for his kindness, generosity, friendship, time, sacrifice, and deep love for our city of Pontiac, and gratitude to the Mansour family for sharing Nick with us all, for these many years. Dated May 10th, 2022, listing all members of the Pontiac City Council. So a somber occasion, bittersweet, but yes, absolutely. A round of applause for Nick Mansour and Nick's Corner. The announced final day of business is May 15th, so you still have a few days to support this Pontiac small business. Wish him well, let him know how much he's meant to you and to others in the neighborhood, and how we will not forget him. And we're just really grateful for his generosity. Anyone wish to have the floor on this motion before us? Councilwoman James?
I would just like to add that the way that Nick would contribute to the community, the fact that he served ready-made cooked meals. To some, it may not, you may not think of it, but many of our residents really, we a lot of people give out baskets on Thanksgiving of, turkeys that have to be cooked and food that has to be cooked. And we don't realize that a lot of times our seniors just are not able to do that work anymore. Cooking a turkey is quite a chore. And when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s, it's just nothing that you can do. And just the fact that this wonderful man took it on himself to serve meals that were already cooked, and there were just hundreds of people lined up to receive these meals, and they enjoyed them. So his contribution, his kindness and his contribution to this city is just, it's beyond words. But I personally want to thank him for all that he has done and the sensitivity and the kindness that he's shown to the Pontiac community.
Councilman Nicholson and then Mayor Greimel.
Yeah, I completely echo that. The hot meals, people don't realize it's easy to make things in quantity. Hot meals, it's not easy, and the quality of those meals, is unmatched. It will be a tremendous loss to not have that need there. I know the county even calls on that need with food scarcity and their programming for shelters. What I'll say is, with Liberty Bar being involved in business for 93 years, we've never had somebody own it for more than 11. So this is not easy work. This is up at 5 a.m. Back when you close, you're changing the grease. It's dirty. It's hard, and you don't do it if you don't love it. And we love you, Nick. So thank you for all of the years and as much support as you've given us. We hope that you felt half of that given back to you.
Mayor Greimel.
Well, at risk of sounding redundant at this point, Nick was just and is still an incredible human being, and his business was certainly a part of him and his identity, but he and his business just are incredibly kind people, and in the case of the business, a really kind operation. And he's just an incredibly giving person. I mean, I know that even through the toughest of times for his business, he just continued to give until it hurt. Some cases, maybe literally his bottom line in a very real and profound way. And we all, I think, owe Nick a debt of gratitude for his relentless service to the community. We always talk about what kinds of business people we want to see here in the community in terms of contributing to the community and being engaged. And Nick has really embodied that and truly has a heart of gold and a heart for this community.
Councilwoman Rutherford.
I've known Nick since I was 20 years old. And even tonight in my birthday celebration, they was like, "What kind of food you want?" I said, "Nick's." And the sad part about it is I won't be able to say that after next week. So I want to thank him for every free piece of chicken people don't know about he gave away. I want to thank him for sponsoring scholarship parties like he has done for everything I've ever done for my daughter. I personally want to thank him for writing checks that he knew he couldn't cash, but he wrote them anyway. Because Nick is the man's man, and it's not just a business that is leaving, it is a legacy. And so I'm asking everybody in here, we got like 4 or 5 days before he closed, go buy some chicken, go buy some fish, go tell him thank you, because sometimes we don't give people in our hood, the real hood, they flowers when they do. And so I'm asking y'all to spend your little cash like we do with the Elam Brothers and Nick's one more time. Amen? Amen. Thank you.
Others who wish to have the floor on this motion? Thank you. With that, speakers list exhausted. We move into roll call voting on adoption of the resolution recognizing the community impact of Nick Mansour and Nick's Corner. Clerk Doyle.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the City Department's budget hearing schedule for fiscal year 2022, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so there's a motion before us, and really what it is, it's about us scheduling special meetings of the City Council for us to do a deep dive into the various departments of the proposed budget. I want us to really, as a council, sink our teeth into this, because this was a painful process to set these dates. We have in May a lot of commission meetings that are already set and also time sensitive and important, so we're juggling that. We have a city council where a lot of us work, and so that's a blessing but also a curse when it comes to availability of time. And then we have a council and a community that there's just a lot of other demands on our time. So what I tried to do was have a starting point where we could, through the month of May, cover all of the departments to the best of our ability, and try and balance the fact that many of the people presenting to us are our full-time employees who are working earlier in the day. So it's just a balancing act in terms of how far at night do we go versus how early in the day. So there's a few of these dates I want us to, really assess, is this what we want? So the first section, which you have before you, are the dates in May and the departments that are the target. The next are when we will be hashing out potential amendments to the budget. And so that would come in early June. And then we are required to have a public hearing, meaning that the entire purpose of that meeting is to allow the community to weigh in on all things budget. Each of these will be special meetings, so there will still be the opportunity for public attendance, public comment, but we will have a public hearing, and what I'm proposing is that it is the hour before the last city council meeting in May, which would be May 31st. That from 5 to 6 p.m., the public hearing would be here, and then we begin our regular meeting at 6 p.m. That's what was scheduled last year for the budget public hearing. I reviewed what last year's schedule was. I've also taken into account what the mayor's proposed reorganization of some departments are. So there's, a little bit more than what had been before. So we don't have to lock in these dates or times unless until we as a council really flesh them out. I know that there are some of them that each of you have shared with me will be a conflict. We are also in dangerous birthday territory for Councilwoman Kathleen James. And tree planting schedule, you've had a large event that you're helping put together. And I know that a number of us have multiple work obligations. So no matter which way we slice it, this will be painful. And I know that there's going to be some of these study sessions, if you will, or budget review sessions where we all won't be able to be there. So we also don't even know yet if all of these dates might work for the particular department head or the person who's got to speak to them. So we might have to do some jujitsu on, slicing and dicing when a department may have to come. Or if the debate and the review is so thorough that we've got to roll over. So for example, public works or recreation or some of these larger items that involve a lot of reorganization, we might not be able to do in a 2-hour setting. And we might have to schedule additional meetings and additional review. I also want to highlight that on one of those dates is when the law in the courts, if you were going to move it to do that third Monday, like the other subcommittee that, is otherwise would be falling on Memorial Day, let me know if you've already started to roll that out and you want to hold hard and fast, because then we can try and modify as well. So the moral of the story is that it's brutal and it won't be easy, and we're going to have a lot of challenges to keep the wheels on the budget bus going, but it's important, and we're going to invest a lot of time for the benefit of the citizens. So I wanted to open up the floor now that we have the motion before us. Let's take the easiest part first. Is there any concern amongst the council of us doing the public hearing date on May 31st, aka like an hour before the regular meeting at the end of the month? And the idea is that really the only meeting purpose is to allow the public the opportunity to attend and give it all to us. Councilwoman Rutherford.
I think it doesn't give them enough time as far as, because the public is going to have opinions, especially about the budgeting, the salaries, about the youth center, because that's the outcry that we're hearing from, especially in my district, about promises made and promises not kept. So I think we need to give the public a longer time to get all their frustrations out, and I don't think an hour's going to do it.
Are we thinking maybe 4 to 6 on that day?
I will miss work, yes, 4 to 6. They need 2 hours.
Other feedback on that public hearing opportunity on May 31st? Are we thinking?
I agree. It's not enough time.
Yeah, I'm fine with 4 to 6.
Okay, so rather than do like a piecemeal amendment by amendment, I'm going to try and take note of all that, and then we'll do one amendment of the resolution before us just for efficiency's sake. So 4 to 6 p.m. is the target for the May 31st public hearing portion. Okay, so then the next smaller 2 elements are when we as a council want to sort of do a comprehensive, so after that public hearing has happened, after we've reviewed all those departments, had that, real deep dive, in early June, the meetings we want to have, like proposing almost like amendment Lollapalooza, where we're just going to go through and say, okay, changing this department allocation X, Y, yes, no. It's going to be, rather than do that department by department, once we've looked at everything, let's see how we want to mark it up. And so what they had done last year, at least what was scheduled, was that in early June, there were 2 days, a few hours each, where they did that. So I tentatively slated that for a Wednesday and a Thursday, June 8th and 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. I know that Wednesday, and this was the only one I did in part because of I don't want to box Councilman Parker in for an important Wednesday night that he already has obligations for. But
I'm good.
so now the question is, how do we feel about a Wednesday and a Thursday, June 8th and 9th, 5 to 7 p.m., focused on proposed amendments to the budget? Now, these are days that can go long. There's nothing that's sort of breathing down our neck that says they have to only be 2 hours,
Right, okay.
that they could be 4.5 hours
Okay.
each. And we might be able to get through all of it on the 8th, and it might not require
Okay.
the 9th. But this is almost sort of a built-in buffer.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Any concerns on those?
No.
All right. So we've got a working sense on those 2, knowing full well that Mother Nature can intervene, power outages can intervene. There might be some acts of God that prevent us from being able to hit all these marks, but we're going to try our hardest to at least have a clear path forward. Here's the trickier part. What are the days that we want to do for the council, the departments, and the public to be able to review department by department? And what I've got so far, in case you don't have it in front of you, is that I've tentatively started with, on a Tuesday, which would be a week from tonight, from 3 to 6 p.m., focusing on income tax, finance, human resources, information, technology, and communications. Previously, the cable department was called cable, and the mayor's budget proposes an expansion and reorganization of that department, so that's what communications refers to. Councilwoman.
I have a question. In previous councils, it used to be where the cable was under us. Are we trying to get that under us, or we still have to go through it for them being under the executive side? Because I want to know that.
I'll make myself next on the speakers list to answer that. Right now, the current operation is that the cable director and the contract employee that's with, with cable operations, they are a direct report to the city's mayor. Historically, in past years, and I think before emergency manager, it was that cable director was under the city council supervision. Speaking personally, if we load up the city council with a bunch of staff and departments underneath us, it might not be the most efficient or effective way to manage that day to day. But I'm not going to say no automatically. I mean, because I want things to work well. But I can just say, based on the current, sort of how the rhythm of things, it might be difficult as that communications department might scale up. But that's absolutely the right time to ask those questions, to say, is this enough staff? Are you
Right.
paying the staff enough? Do they have enough resources? And are they in the right spot organizationally? Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
And I only brought that up because there's individuals, I believe, a month ago, we gave them $10,000 that we're using to pay. I forgot his name, the young man that comes and hooks up. And I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to create or do something in that regard for him in particular, who's been working so diligently for the city. So that's why I'm asking, how do we go about making sure that that happens the right way? And
Yeah, excellent question. And when we schedule it, that'll be a very effective way for us to have all of those staff, appropriate staff point people with the mayor and deputy mayor. A hand, Councilman Parker?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask if we were going to still continue with the line item format of budget. Because I know that was one that was approved by last council, but are we going to do that with this council?
The budget ordinance that's in place speaks to, I don't want to use the wrong term. I don't think they're calling it line item, but it speaks sort of terms of like an operational, it's like trying to be more user-friendly. And so that's the current ordinance. And so the budget proposal that was presented to the city council is following that ordinance structure. So if you're saying line item, it means some things to a lot of different people is my point. And I think Mayor Grindle might answer that better.
Yeah, so by whatever name one wants to call it, the same form that was passed by the previous city council for the current fiscal year, we've used that same form in terms of our budget proposal. So we're certainly comfortable with that. If council wants to continue that practice, if you're interested in a different format, we can talk about that too. But yeah,
Just wanted to see where we are. Because some have asked in the community what type of process and form we're going to use. So thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor.
Councilman Nicholson.
I just want to ask that on May 17th, the 24th, and the 31st, we're running into council meetings, that leadership and administration just be thoughtful of the, having larger or other elongated agenda items maybe be on the opposite weeks, or that a built-in recess is into our council meetings schedule, just because that will potentially be up to maybe 8 hours
Right.
of us in the chambers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very well put. And so we'll try to be very strategic with how we structure
And
that marathon.
8 hours of most of us working prior to that.
Yeah.
So Tuesday the 17th, 3 to 6 p.m., and then it would be followed by a regular council meeting. Thursday, May 19th, from 4 to 6 p.m., focused on fire, public safety, law, and grants. Friday, May 20th, 4 to 6 p.m., focused on community development. Wanted to give them kind of a spotlight just because there's a lot of staff being added and reorganization that's likely before us. Monday, May 23rd, 4 to 6 p.m., focused on public works. And following that, there's a planning commission meeting that I spoke to earlier. So that's sort of, a built-in end time. Tuesday, May 24th, that's again a marathon, city council special meeting followed by the regular meeting, 3 to 6 p.m., focused on the 50th District Court, city council operations, clerk, elections. I put charter commission in there in case they have to be spelled out, but just because it's a unique one. And then marijuana regulations, that was spelled out of the clerk's budget for last fiscal year, but it broadly is dealing with all that's in the universe of the clerk's domain. Thursday, May 26th, 4 to 6 p.m., focused on recreation and the executive office. And as I'm reading that date, I know that's when there's right now a District 4 meeting scheduled. What time do your District 4 meetings happen?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, so I may have to move that. May have to reschedule something there.
And so those are the dates that we have identified for now. As I said, one asterisk is that there might be a department director for a department who's on vacation or, on a certain day, and we might have to swap some of the departments that we're doing, or we may have to say, all right, Public Works, we had so much fun with you on this one day, it's going to have to come back on an additional day as well. So that's something that it'll be a work in progress, an ongoing work in progress. Are there any of these dates that you know for certain that you cannot make? And I know that doesn't necessarily mean that it's crossed off the list, but we'll always need to make sure we have quorum. Councilwoman Rutherford.
So the one I'm most concerned about is the 17th from 3 to 6. I really want to be there. Is there any way we could switch that time at all? Because that's about the finances, human resources, and technology and communication. That's one of the ones I do not want to miss. So I employ you because I want to be there, involved, and engaged. I won't be able to make it there to 5. I won't be able to get the points that I have across, and I won't be able to ask the tough questions I have about the salaries that are being presented and my objective or my support of those things.
Mr. President,
Mayor Grimal?
did Councilwoman reference May 26th?
No.
17th.
May the 17th.
May 17th. May 26th may be difficult for the executive branch. What's the topic that day?
Recreation and the executive branch.
Yeah, so that's tough for us. The deputy mayor has a keynote speaking commitment that conflicts with that, and I think it's probably important to have him here if those are going to be the topics.
Would it make sense to swap those two dates?
Well, I imagine that
And that way, at least then we can move it up to 4, and then there'd be less that's missed on the 17th.
Wednesday, May 18th is currently not on our radar. And Clerk Doyle, please scream and shout if I'm saying something that conflicts with any of the multiple meetings that also are in the, out there in the universe. Wednesday, May 18th, we could add that as a day that goes from 4 to 6 p.m.
That would be the executive branch and recreation.
That takes the heat off of May 26th.
Okay.
And
So the 17th.
Brother President,
yes,
so are we changing then May 26th to May 18th?
that's the current tentative plan.
Okay, so what are we doing May 17th?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to thread the needle on. We could do Wednesday, June 1st.
Okay, that gives me enough time. I just want to, I don't think that gives me enough time to do what I have to do too, because I asked for certain things from the
Yeah.
executive side. that
So
I'm
we could
waiting
try
on.
and do, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay.
on Wednesday, June 1st.
Okay.
Any hard conflicts?
Not with that, but there is another challenge.
Okay, so Wednesday, June 1st is our tentative swap for the 17th. Wednesday, Mayor Brimley, you have the floor.
Ms. Borngesser is not available on May 19th, which I believe is the date you've designated for discussion about the grants management department.
All right, so let's
Blending it.
swap. Let's strike grants from the 19th.
Can we move it down to the 20th?
That would make more sense because we talking about community development and grants. Ain't that under the
Ms.
same?
Borngesser, is the 20th also a conflict, or that's a good? That's a thumbs up. Okay, so instead, the 20th?
Mr. President,
Yes.
so I could jump in. Be mindful, community development is now consisting of planning, building, code, and
It's okay.
planning, building, code enforcement. So I don't necessarily know if it's enough time to add an additional department.
It was still originally 4 to 6, so we're asking to elongate that one to from 3.
Oh, we could do 3 to 6 p.m. on May
Community
20th.
development.
To do on the 20th, to fit more time for grants, but we'll do grants first. So it still would be 4 to 6, at least for community development.
Mhm.
So, any other staff members give you a text message yet? And there's still room for us to maneuver as well.
Councilwoman James
Yes.
has her hand up.
Councilman James.
Yeah, I have some questions just about, in terms of who is going to participate in these. Ms. Sharp going to be a part of these meetings?
That's the expectation, yes.
Okay, will we have someone from the finance department to answer any questions? This is my first time through a budget process, and we haven't really had too much of a primer on this budget. It would be comfortable to have someone that if there were questions about how it's laid out and what things mean, that there would be someone there to answer those. Will there be someone there to answer our questions?
Mayor Gremmel and Deputy Mayor Stevens, would you like to share what your initial sort of framework is for, at a particular department session, who would be the stakeholders there, your working plan of action on that?
So at a minimum, we want to make sure that the people who are in charge of that category, in many instances it will be a department. In other instances, like grants, for example, it's not currently a department, although we're proposing to make it a department. So whoever is currently in charge of that area, whether it's a department currently or a division or some sort of miscellaneous nondescript organizational entity currently, because as we've discussed many times, there's some baffling aspects to the organizational structure here at City Hall that we walked into. So whoever is in charge of that area, we certainly want them here. And then if there are some additional folks who you think should be there, we're very open to that. We want to make sure that we're being accessible and transparent, and that we're providing whoever you think is important to be there.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman James?
would your department people know how their numbers are represented in the budget? In other words, if there were a question about what this number meant, would your department people be able to address how that's represented in the budget?
Well, in many instances, in most instances, yes. And certainly our proposed budget has been sent to all department heads. However, and I didn't say this because I thought it went without saying, we will make sure that the deputy mayor and I and the finance director are at all of these sessions.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Forgive me, Councilwoman.
That's
the
it.
three of us will be at each and every one of these. Okay. And then in addition to, sorry, I thought that went without saying that we'd be at all of them, so forgive me. But in addition to that, we'll make sure that the person currently in charge of whatever area is also there.
And so that if the community is trying to make sense of some of the moving parts here, what we'll have at each week's council meeting agenda is an ongoing council communication that'll itemize when the respective special meetings, aka a unique window of time, when they will be happening. Any other concerns, changes, or desired revisions? What I'll do is I'll summarize what the changes would be. Any other changes that you wish to see? All right. So we would strike May 17th completely, but we'll still have our regular council meeting. And I'll add likely a discussion item there, so that way we can have a final discussion as a council leading into that, where we might talk some of the more broad nuts and bolts of what we want to make sure is happening, so that way we're being effective with our time.
Okay.
We would be adding a Wednesday, May 18th, from 4 to 6 p.m., focusing on recreation and the executive branch. And since that'll be our first session, there may be a lot of sort of broad budgetary conversations that happen as well. We are, from May 19th, removing grants from the focus subject. On May 20th, we are expanding that to be 3 to 6 p.m. and adding grants as well. We are striking May 26th from the schedule. We are adding Wednesday, June 1st, from 3 to 6 p.m. And that will be income tax, finance, human resources, information technology, and communications. And then we are expanding the public hearing for the community to be instead 4 to 6 p.m. on May 31st. So, is there a motion to amend the resolution to incorporate those changes?
I make the motion.
Support.
It's been moved by Rutherford and seconded by Nicholson that we amend the resolution to incorporate those changes. So if this amendment passes, our dates would be May 18th, 4 to 6 p.m., focusing on recreation and the executive branch. May 19th, 4 to 6 p.m., focused on fire, public safety, and law. May 20th, 3 to 6 p.m., focused on grants and community development. Monday, May 23rd, 4 to 6 p.m., focused on public works. May 24th, 3 to 6 p.m., focused on 50th District Court, City Council operations, clerk, elections, Charter Commission, marijuana regulations. June 1st, 3 to 6 p.m., focused on income tax, finance, human resources, information technology, and communications. June 8th, 5 to 7, focusing on proposed amendments to the budget. June 9th, 5 to 7 again, focusing on proposed amendments to budget. And May 31st, from 4 to 6 p.m. for that special meeting to hold the required public hearing. Clerk Doyle, did I capture that well for us? All right, any discussion on the amendment before us, which is shifting to try and recalibrate and capture those moving parts as we have them? Hearing no further discussion, we're doing roll call on that amendment, which updates that information.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
If I didn't vote, I'm a yes. I don't know why I blank out during roll call. I might have
That's
said
okay.
yes. So that motion carries. So that amendment is adopted, and we have now the resolution as amended. So broadly speaking, there may be additions as the process goes on. We may find out that we really have a lot more questions. We want to do a lot more amendments. And so it will be a labor, but a labor of love for the city, so that way we have the strongest possible budget to operate for the fiscal year. The fiscal year begins July 1st, ends June 30th. So there's some date-specific deadlines, but we want to give this schedule gives us ample room to make modifications, and if we need to do more, where we're not buttoned up against a really time-sensitive deadline with a lot of calamity. Any other discussion on the resolution before us as amended?
The schedule is going to be posted on the clerk's website as well as the front door.
It will follow just like all the other meetings. This will be a public meeting. It will be in these chambers. It will be, our intention is to have them televised and live streamed, et cetera, and there'll be a lot of them. Yes, ma'am.
Can we make sure that the city website puts it up on them, like the City of Pontiac website, so that everybody's empowered and engaged and inspired to be here? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Other discussion on the motion before us? Hearing no further discussion, we move into the roll call voting on adoption of the City Council resolution scheduling the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, special meetings, and public hearing. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
Thank you very much. That motion carries, and so thank you for your indulgence, council and the community. It's important that we think as strategically as possible now to avoid any headaches down the road. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the decertification of Franklin Road between Woodward Avenue and Franklin Road on the southwesterly side of CNRR for a total length of 291 feet?
So moved.
Actually, I make a motion to postpone this vote because I don't think that there's sufficient information here.
There's no amendment to postpone yet. It's not even been seconded.
Oh, that's a good point. Is there a second to approve? Second to approve. And once we have that motion, then we can postpone it.
Okay.
Is there a second on the motion? I need a second.
I second it.
All right, so Nicholson's moved, Rutherford is seconded. So it's the Franklin Road decertification. That motion is before us. Councilwoman James would like to postpone for 1 week. Do you want to give staff an opportunity to do a quick FYI and then we postpone it, or?
I'd like to hear from the administration.
So
Mayor Grimo.
Well,
what are you looking at, and then we'll.
I'm going to allow. We're fine postponing it. There's no real urgency here, so let me begin by saying that. I do want to turn it over to Director Cooley so that he can get into more detail. But the short answer here is that this section of roadway has been closed for a very long time, and I'll let Director Cooley get into the details. And the MDOT requires local communities to maintain accurate surveys of open roadways because that is one of the factors that determines how much funding a local community gets. And this has been closed for nearly 20 years, I think, well over 10 years anyway. And yet it was never, quote unquote, decertified in terms of these MDOT surveys. And so this is long overdue since this road has been long closed. But Director Cooley, you feel free to get into more details.
Yeah, so as the mayor had spoke to, this road was taken out of service. The best I could find information on was somewhere around 2001. It's a section of Franklin Road that was right where the loop comes together at the south portion there, and it went over to Franklin Road existing. What had happened was MDOT had gave us some credits for bridge repairs if we could close some of our grade level railroad crossings. And this was one of the railroad crossings that the city had decided to close at that time. We got some credits to our funding for some bridge repairs. So the roadway has been gone since 2000, early 2001, somewhere in that range. And this is basically just a housekeeping item for our Act 51 map, like the mayor had stated. It was just something that had somehow slipped through the cracks over the years, and this portion had not got decertified.
So it's waited 21 years, Councilwoman. If it can certainly wait another week or two, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you like to do a motion to postpone?
Yes, I would like to do a motion to postpone because just what we have in the memorandum doesn't really explain what it is and, give a background on what it is. It's very, very basic here. It'd be good to even know where it's actually located, some kind of a pictorial as well, and just, it should contain some kind of an explanation of the cause of, the need for it and some kind of supporting documentation.
Okay.
There's a motion to postpone for 1 week from Councilwoman James. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, so the motion before us is postponement for 1 week. Any discussion on that postponement? Hearing no further discussion, we move into roll call on adoption of the motion to postpone for 1 week. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis?
Oh, is there there's a potential inserting point?
Well, not a concerning point. I did just want to make sure that we knew, as the executive branch, what additional information you'd like to see so that we can make sure to be responsive and provide that information before it's taken up next week. But certainly you can provide that to us offline if you'd like, Councilwoman. And but if you're looking for some sort of diagram of where this roadway is or
was,
Yeah,
better-
would be a better way to put it. Good point.
An explanation of decertification, because really not familiar with it. Explanation of decertification, the cause, how this all came about, that we are asking for decertification. So some kind of explanation of it, and then any supporting documentation that you have. Normally, that is a part of our package.
Yes.
There's generally some kind of supporting information and explanation. This, however, is just the memorandum itself, and in my mind, it just really is not. It's not enough information here, particularly when it's talking and addressing something that I'm totally unfamiliar with.
We can certainly put together an explanation of decertification and the context of that. We can, I'm sure, provide an explanation of where this roadway was. To the best of our ability, we can try to provide an explanation as to why this roadway was closed. However, as implied by Director Cooley's uncertainty about the date it was closed, city records are not very clear in this regard, but we can certainly try to dig up whatever we can find.
All right, we had proceeded to roll call voting, so I just committed a cardinal sin of Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Order. I allowed the roll call to be interrupted. So with that, but it was hopefully helpful and illustrative for the administration. Roll call continuing. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
No.
Parker,
I'm sorry, you lost me. What
It's on the postponement for 1 week.
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion to postpone for 1 week carries. Thank you very much. We are now at under the grants category. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve City of Pontiac submission of the grant application titled Set the Stage at Hidden River Plaza to the Michigan Arts and Cultural Council Capital Improvements Grant Program in the amount of $56,500?
I make the motion, but I do want a point of clarity.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Rutherford, seconded by Nicholson, so that motion is before us. We'll give administration and staff the opportunity to set the scene, and then Councilwoman Rutherford has first question.
Ms. Borngesser, take it away.
Sure. The City of Pontiac would like the council to pass a resolution authorizing us to submit a grant application to the MACC for a grant that would support further redevelopment of Hidden River Plaza in the amount of $56,500. We previously were awarded a grant from Kaboom Play Anywhere, and that was for the exact same amount. This project is underway and will take care of some redevelopment and improvements of the upper terrace. And so this grant here would actually complete the project in full and take care of the improvements on the lower terrace, which is the portion of Hidden River Plaza that is closest to the alleyway. The grant itself requires that the funding request does not exceed 50% of the total project cost, meaning in this instance it will require a 1-to-1 match, and this would mean that we're taking one grant award and leveraging it as the match to produce new grant awards. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilwoman Rutherford.
Okay, my question is, have we confirmed from the executive side that the stage will be renamed after the Jones brothers? Have they confirmed that they're going to do that at this time?
No, we have not gone through any formal naming process.
When would that be done?
I believe that we would include that in part of our community engagement at the close of the construction of both performance spaces.
Okay. The reason why I'm pointing out, as I say every week and will continue to do so, that there's nothing named after the Jones brothers in the city of Pontiac, yet in every other community there's statues, there's streets, there's actual they receive doctorate from the Oakland University. So I just want to make sure that we treasure that part for downtown, because they actually brought it actually correlates with Charlotte's in a sense, because there's a whole section of pictures that's painted about them, and I just want to make sure that we do that too, and we don't just name it, I don't know, Huckleberry Finn Theater. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Councilwoman James, Councilman Nicholson, Mayor Grimel.
I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, will this resolve whatever controversy that we had with the original writers of this grant, the phonography group, the downtown group? that originally wrote the grant for the city? And the second question is, will this satisfy the terms of the Kaboom grant? Will it totally satisfy the terms of that grant?
So these are actually two separate grants. The resolution before you is for an entirely new grant application.
I know, yeah.
The Kaboom Hidden River Plaza redevelopment grant, which was called Fun and Sounds Abound Downtown, that is actually an entirely separate set of funding. That will be wholly executed with the improvements taking place in the upper terrace. So presently that grant is in good standing. We have a good relationship with the funder. And to your point regarding the Holonomy Incubator, the Holonomy Incubator, from what I understand, and this is long before my time here at City Hall, was engaged in the community engagement portion of the grant writing process. I believe the grant itself was submitted by Alexandria Riley. Her name is on the initial application. They produced a small infographic style additions to the original application. And I believe that the community engagement portion of that grant is satisfied to standard.
Any elaboration on that answer, Mayor Bramley? You had your hand.
Well, I'm not familiar with the controversy that Councilwoman James referenced, but I was raising my hand before she spoke to speak to the Jones brothers, and
Go for it.
to my knowledge, we had not had any conversations about naming the stage after anybody thus far, but I think it's really important for us to commemorate the Jones brothers. I was there at Charlene's for the ribbon cutting or the unveiling of the portrait, and I'm intrigued by the suggestion and think it would be probably very appropriate. So let's continue to have some conversations over naming the stage, because this is the first I've heard any discussion about naming the stage, but I like the idea about naming it after local musical artists.
Councilman Nicholson?
So the improvements at the park, all of these items will be wholly owned by the city and maintained by the Parks and Rec Department?
Correct.
Okay. So at that point, the city, if it's our interest, right, we could write a resolution naming the stage, right? So if somebody wanted to do that or move that effort forward, they could write a resolution and we could vote on it.
Councilman Rutherford?
Okay, Ms. Borngasser, were you not informed of my request when you called me a couple of months ago about me wanting to name the stage after the Jones Brothers? Did you not discuss that with the executive branch?
No, I have not discussed the naming of the
But you were told,
pavilions. You told me that that was your request, yes, but
Okay.
namings typically go before council as a whole. They are typically done in a community engagement style forum. Typically, it's general consensus for naming of buildings and city property,
Got
but
it.
yes, you did make me aware.
Okay. Part two, it's okay. Part two is this. I just want to make sure we're clear because Monica Williams is what they're referring to about the controversy. If you don't know, Mayor Grimo, they have this idea that they're the fiduciary people for the grant for the Kaboom. And so they've been sending out information in regards to they're supposed to be over what happens to the grant of the Kaboom funding. So I was wondering, is there any way that you or someone from your side can reach out to them and explain to them how the process has been done and how it was allocated, because they're under the impression that they are the ones that actually should be handling how it's spent in the community.
We'll make sure that someone from the executive branch connects with them if that hasn't already been done.
Okay, thank you.
We have spoken with both Monica and Jim from the Holonomy Incubator. We've discussed the project in its entirety. We've had a call with them on multiple occasions. They have spoken with Vern in planning as well. They were engaged in the community engagement portion of this grant application. You can see the charrettes, which is the word I was looking for earlier, in the actual documents that were provided during the last time we discussed the Kaboom grant. However, this opportunity is completely separate of that grant and allows us to leverage already awarded grant funds to further redevelop the plaza and provide those wonderful improvements in both pavilions to Pontiac residents.
Other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list exhausted. We have a motion to adopt the resolution to approve City of Pontiac's submission of the grant application titled Setting the Stage at Hidden River Plaza to the Michigan Arts and Culture Council Capital Improvements Grant Program in the amount of $56,500. Roll call on adoption. Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Thank you very much for your time. We're now at communications from the City Council. The Pontiac Mental Health Community Forum is on May 16th, 2022, from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Bowen Center, located at 52 Bagley Street, Pontiac 48341. A flyer and resources about the forum are included in the agenda packet with this communication. Next, Veterans and Military Families Resource Event, May 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at UWM Sports Complex, 867 South Boulevard East in Pontiac. Again, information and resources accompany the communication in the agenda packet. Pontiac Point of Hope 2022 is happening June 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 313 East Walton Boulevard in Pontiac. Flyers accompany the council communication. From the mayor's office, the Pontiac Small Business Town Hall that was part of the discussion is happening May 14th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Bowen Center, 52 Bagley Street in Pontiac. Flyers are accompanying the communication in the agenda packet. We are now at public comment. Councilwoman Rutherford, you have the floor.
Thank you. So our first speaker is going to be Dr. Deidre Waterman.
I just wanted to come and to say thank you to all those who expressed sympathy and support for me and my family on the loss of my mother, Dorothy Bird Holloway, about a month ago. She died. She had just turned 100 in October. Still a very proud woman who had done a lot for the community. Many of you knew her. She was quite a cheerleader as I was mayor during the term. But she had the philosophy that as a black woman, that you lift up your community. That's what you do. And certainly that was a tradition. She started in my family, and it's passed on. So this was my first Mother's Day without my mother. Many of you know she was a musician, too. And she was on the original board for what started out as the Charles H. Wright Museum, is now what is well known as the Museum of African American History. She started that. She was on the board of that. She was also the first black woman on the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and was responsible for bringing a lot of the cultural musicians to town, Mahalia Jackson and Roland Hayes, and that. So she passed that along to her children. It would have been a sad day except for the fact that my daughter, Shauna Waterman, I'm a proud mom too, surprised me and produced a film on a website called Look What She Did, and it's actually a website that supports strong women. It was founded by 4 producers some years ago. And she talks about the accomplishments that we do as strong women. So it's on my Facebook, and it's also on their website. It's called Look What She Did. But it's really a website that supports the stories of strong women. And I might say that both my children, Shauna and Toussaint, who grew up in Pontiac, and they're very proud sons and daughter of Pontiac, and they're happy for what's happening here and look upon this very importantly. But also I'm proud of the fact today that she's turned out to be a very strong woman, and in fact has now working with Regina King to produce a Netflix production, which will be out this fall, about the life of Shirley Chisholm, another strong woman leadership. And there's a lot of strong black women leaders, particularly, that have come to the fore under the Biden administration with the appointment of our first black Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and now the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, and others, not to mention our woman vice president, Kamala Harris. So that's happy. For those of you who don't know how to contact me, and I've been away for a bit, I do have, as I gave out early, don't use the old email address. I'm now at drdeirdrewaterman@gmail.com, and I just want to bring that up and tell you that how proud I am and how thankful I am for all those. And I just want to say thank you. It supported the family, and we wanted to send our thanks for your condolences.
Thank you. Miss Billy Swazer. No, I haven't called your name.
Good afternoon. I am Billy Swayzer. I know everyone and many of you have been contacted, and I'm talking to the retirees by the CEPA board members to call off a special meeting that I had requested. Here's why. They do not want to pre-fund the permanent pension increase that we have requested because they want some of the money to go to the VIVA, which is overfunded. Please read this email carefully as the time is of the essence. The settlement agreement requires that 130% of the liabilities of the old GERS be transferred to the new GERS, and that assets in excess of the 130% be transferred to the VIVA board. The escrow agreement states in part, the city of Pontiac and CEPA have agreed to explore a potential modification to the settlement agreement which may result in the transfer of a portion of the excess assets to the reestablished GERS instead of the VIVA. If the escrow funds have not been distributed by the custodian by May 31st, 2022, paragraph 24 of the settlement agreement will be utilized. If after reasonable efforts have been made, funds, the mediation has been, I can't read that. Each party to the settlement agreement may proceed as it deems appropriate. The settlement agreement states in paragraph 24 that if the parties are not able to eliminate barriers to the implementation of this agreement promptly, the parties will ask the court to convene to facilitate the mediation with support the mediator mutually acceptable to the parties. Mayor Grimel has expressed in multiple public meetings his strong objection to additional litigation costs over this matter. By default, the settlement agreement requires any assets in excess of 130% of the transferred 130% to be transferred to the VIVA. In other words, if the city and the CEPA do not reach an agreement after these assets are transferred to the escrow account, it is unlikely that the city could take VIVA to court and the excess assets will go to the new VIVA. All the CEPA board has to do right now is to stall or object, which is exactly what has happened.
That does conclude your time.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Veronica Taylor, and then up next will be Andrea Morris. Maris, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I get corrections, direction to be led. My bad. I had it wrong. Sorry about that.
First, I give honor to God who's the head of my life, to this diocese and everything. I thank you all for all y'all prayers and wishes. As y'all can see, I'm getting a lot better. First of all, I will come here to tell y'all some things. We have a race coming up here in August. Now, my own precinct councilman, District 7, Mike McGinnis, and our current mayor in District 7 at 160 J. Hubbard Lane. I am terrified because I have asked you all to come out there. The current place is Beacon Square Townhome. They own the townhomes. They managing the townhomes there. I have little kids that's playing in my townhome area. I sent you, Councilman McGinnis, and Mayor, a copy of the drain where I am now at home phone banking for the governor every day, can watch these little kids pull up that drain and fall in there and can die. To say that, I am so tired of Pontiac children getting shot and killed. Do you actually think I want to look out my door and see a little child falling into a ditch, a main drain, and being swept down through a water drain main? No, I don't. I'm tired of seeing the kids get shot and hurt around here, doing to young, older people fighting in this world. Now, so can y'all please come out and see about that? Now, May is the month of African Americans that voted. It started to be able, men period, being able to vote since 1865. I need.
Conclude your
That
time.
concludes your time.
Thank you.
Andrea Mans. All right, and Mr. Bill Maxey will be next.
Good afternoon. Andrea Mans, District 1. This is an ongoing issue that I came back to talk about since I've been bringing up for the last 5-6 years about the racetrack, the noise from the racetrack. Like I said, I'm in District 1. My mom's in District 5, and she can hear the racetrack all the way over there. I downloaded a decibel range, and I have sat on my porch or steps, and it's well over 100 decibels. So they said that it was not, that it was within the decibel range, and it is not, it's way over. And District 1 is comprised of elderly, retired, and sickly people that can't come up here and voice their concerns. So again, I'm bringing it up one more time because I brought it up several times to the previous administration and mayor. And so I'd like an update on where we're going with that. I'd also like an update on the pole barn because it's a hot mess over there. It's an eyesore. Like I said, they're dumping. There's no gate to keep any kids or anybody else from wandering around in there. It's dangerous. It's not been cut in the last 3 years. And I'd also like to ask about the trash. I understand that there was a contract about the trash that was negotiated years before, but is there anything going to be done about all of the houses that have been torn down, all of the houses that's been built, the buildings that's being built? Is it going to be a renegotiation of the terms of the trash? Because one trash can is not sufficient for a house. And also I'd like to know about the bike lane on Perry Street. I don't know where that idea came from, but it's way more cars than it is bikes, and I go on Perry quite a bit, and I hardly ever see any bikes. But I do see cars, and I do see a lot of traffic. So to me, that's just a wasted space, taking up a lane that we could be using to facilitate our moves more quickly, getting to where we're going, because the speed limit is low anyway. It's a low speed limit. So we do need that lane back. And what are the sidewalks for if we're going to have a bike lane and sidewalks for the people riding the bikes? That's all.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Bill Maxey, and then after that, it's Mr. Jasper. He ain't here. All right.
Good evening, governors, Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac, and community at large. I'm wearing the hat for senior citizen advocacy. Quickly, I don't have enough time to buy a mosquito wrestling jacket, so I'll cut through the chase. Here's a practical guide for tenants and landlords. Our seniors are being ripped off, and at the same time, we have focus on foreclosures. They're being ripped off. How do we adjust to this? Seniors will take care of ourselves. We will take care of ourselves. And dual leaderships and organizations do not address us. I heard everything tonight so far except for the seniors. Number one, tomorrow, Michigander Day in Lansing. I will be traveling to Michigander Day once a year, and I've been assigned to the Quality of Life Committee for our seniors. Our mayor, our former state rep has been there the last 4 to 5 years with us. We have a big problem, and we're not even addressing it. However, to get that done, we will take care of ourselves. Understand that. The 17th of May, between the hours of 4 and 6, we're asking seniors to come to our Senior Citizen Advocacy Board meeting. It will be our first one. Thanks to the state rep, we'll have literature so we can talk to you about the legal aspects. We can talk to you about the foreclosure. We can talk to you about the landlord-tenants agreement. As I said last week, seniors do not sign lease over the telephone. Found out our seniors, in one particular case we were looking at, from $400 to $625, 15 days late notice over the telephone. Your rent has been raised. We're on the back of the bus. They're on the back of the bus with us. Like the veterans, we'll take care of ourselves, but just to let you know, we are addressing. And I do keep files on everything. The service to our seniors, our veterans, and to our youth. I won't get into youth because that's really not my bag. There are others with expertise on that. But my focus is on our veterans and our seniors. And again, let me say this. At 138 North Saginaw, we have an office. I got permission to move that office to Pontiac, Michigan Senior Advisory Council. You'll have to call this number. We only have 2 staffs, but we wake up to serve. So time really don't matter, does it? 248-762-4953. Call our office and we will answer. Then we'll get in contact with your council person, and even if the mayor is necessary, we will work together collaboratively. We have to do this because without us covering our own backs, we're in the back of the bus with the veterans. Again, that's on the 17th of May from 4 to 6. Our state rep will be there with more literature, and our legal person will be there to help stop these snowball foreclosures. Thank you for the time. I hope you're listening. I meant every word. Do have files. Actions speak louder than words. Thank you.
James Shabash. Sabish, I'm sorry, sweetheart. James Sabish.
Jimmy will do. Barnes and Noble notation. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. When you persevere over time, opportunity will present itself. What was not there yesterday may be there today and in the future. I will add to that. Wisdom is the prime thing. Acquire wisdom, and with all that you acquire understanding. Know the facts. We have a situation that's going on between Germany or Russia and Ukraine. World War II lasted 5 years. It was an isolation, and we got drawn into it. This situation is not occurring isolation. It appears to me to be a vacuum, slowly, one way or the other. At present, it is increasing the cost of our gasoline, oil products, which influences what people do as they drive. What they done yesterday, they won't do today. I'll close this with the Dominic sisters' prayer for the world. Seek truth, make peace, revere life, express compassion to all people. Pray for God's help. Thank you.
That's the end of public comment. I'm sorry.
Thank you. We now move to closing comments. Mayor Grimel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, President McGinnis. Wanted to touch base on a few items. We are and have been following up regarding the structure on Highland Avenue at 404 Highland. And we do have some updates. Apparently, there was a meeting between the building department and the owner of that property back in November of 2021 during the previous mayor's administration. And at that meeting, the owner acknowledged that the property is only partially built and was told that he needed to provide a long list of documentation regarding proposed plans to finish that structure and the development of that site. Nothing has occurred since that time, and the building official has on Friday, that is to say, 4 days ago now, sent an email to that owner saying that he needs to provide all of that documentation to the city by June 30th, or else we will move forward with demolishing that structure. So that's where things stand now in that regard. In regard to the garbage contract, we are in the final few years now of a very long garbage contract that started nearly 20 years ago now. And the terms of that contract are not good. I don't really understand why those terms were negotiated the way they were at the time, but we're stuck with those terms for the final couple of years of the contract. However, we have met with GFL because we have complained to them, as you can imagine, in the past few months about some of the terrible terms of this contract. What they have said is that they might be willing to renegotiate those terms of the contract, but only if we extend the renegotiated contract. In other words, if they're going to give us more favorable terms, they're asking for a longer term contract. We're reluctant to do that for obvious reasons. We don't want to give up our ability to find a better provider who might give us even better terms when the contract expires. The other dynamic is that there have begun some conversations that I've been a part of with some neighboring communities about possibly joining together to negotiate a waste hauler contract for all of us together to get better terms, because we'd have more market power, more negotiating power if we join together with other neighboring communities. We're just in the very beginning stages of that conversation, but we certainly don't want to extend a contract if we can come together with other communities, because then we'd forego the opportunity to really have that bargaining power in collaboration with other communities. And that's a model that has been employed elsewhere in Oakland County. There's an organization called SACRA, which has communities that have come together in the southern end of the county, and they've come together to try to have more bargaining power in terms of waste hauler contracts, for example. So it's a model that has been used by some other communities in Oakland County. Pontiac is not part of SACRA or any other collaboration other than NOHAS, and we're all familiar with NOHAS days, and that's done in conjunction with the county. But in terms of day-to-day curbside waste pickup, we have not been part of any collaboration with other communities. So we want to explore that, and we don't want to extend a contract if this is going to go somewhere and we can really utilize that buying power. In terms of bike lanes on Perry, this is a question that has come up many, many times, as you know. Perry Street is an MDOT roadway, and it was MDOT that put in those bike lanes. It appears, and by MDOT, for those who aren't familiar with jargon, that's the Michigan Department of Transportation, so it's a state road that's under their jurisdiction. However, it does appear from available information that they did get some sort of tacit sign-off from the previous administration to do that, and there's some question, depending on who one believes, as to whether or not the previous city council was informed of that. But in any event, they're there now, which is, I think a real concern to a lot of people in the community, especially since those bike lanes are not seemingly being used much. I live off of Perry Street, and I haven't seen a whole lot of traffic congestion most of the time, but it does raise the question of, hey, why are we spending space on the bike lanes? One of the things they did do was, in addition to putting in the bike lanes, they also added in a left turn lane for the entire route of Perry, and I think that's been a plus, at least in theory, because that should make things safer so that cars use that left turn lane to turn left, which should reduce the incidence of rear end accidents. But in terms of removing the bike lanes, MDOT seems to be unwilling to do that at its expense, and so they would want the city to pay for it. And obviously, we have a lot of other very pressing needs in the city in terms of road repair. So that's where things stand there. We do have a lot of exciting events coming up in the city that I can get into more details about later. But I do want to mention that we do have a planned Juneteenth celebration happening in the city. That is going to ultimately occur in the parking lot adjacent to Welcome Missionary Baptist Church, and that's going to be on June 17th, June 18th, and June 19th. But it will be preceded by, and we're just in the early planning stages of this, a Juneteenth parade that will probably start somewhere in downtown Pontiac, and then ultimately end up in the parking lot adjacent to Welcome Missionary Baptist Church. At my suggestion, we're looking at the possibility of routing that parade route by the corner at Bagley and Wesson as part of kind of tipping our hat to the important history there at what was the epicenter of the black community in Pontiac. And there are some other exciting events coming up as well. We're going to have a renowned exhibit that was in Detroit in past years called Bonded, and that'll be in downtown Pontiac. I'll have more information to share about that at next week's meeting, but that's going to be right in downtown Pontiac in June. And I should also mention, especially for those of you who live near M1 Concourse, that they are planning to do their fireworks display again this year. That's scheduled for June 26th. Depending on who you talk to in the adjoining neighborhoods around M1 Concourse, that's either a nuisance, the fireworks display, or an opportunity to see some fireworks in close proximity to one's home. In terms of the broader concern that you've identified about noise coming from the high-speed vehicles there, we take that concern very seriously. I do believe that we need to make sure we're properly enforcing the city's noise ordinance. And so I do want to follow up and talk a little more in detail about some of the decibel readings that you've had and the times a day that you've observed that. I have been in communication with Councilwoman Rutherford about that matter as well in the past week. And so we look forward to working with you to make sure that we're enforcing our noise ordinance everywhere in the city.
Clerk Doyle.
No, Mr. President.
All right. We'll switch it up since it's birthday week. We'll start with District 6. Councilman Parker, your closing comments.
Yeah. Get right.
Thank you,
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
6 is in absentia, 5, Parker, and we'll move this way regardless of numerical order.
Amen. Thank you, Brother President. First, I want to say thank you to Pastor Johnson for coming and giving us our invocation today. We certainly appreciate you and the things that you do for the city. I know you do have feeding programs and clothing programs and all that. So thank you for taking time out to come by and help us out this evening. I want to wish our legal council representative a happy birthday today. Today was her birthday, so we want to acknowledge her birthday today. Mayor, I just want to say thank you for all the work you continue to do on our streets in District 5. But I want to remind you that at Perry and Martin Luther King, I think, there is no south turn signal. And only because I almost got hit, we probably need to put, and I know that's a MDOT road, but it's turn signals going every other way but that way. So we probably need to get that taken care of. I want to tell everybody that certainly the District 5 Council meeting will be 6 p.m. May 12th. I believe it was scheduled in the Lions Den, but it may have moved. I keep hearing different things, but we'll meet at the Lions Den, and then if we need to move it, we'll certainly move down to the Shrine Room. I also there was a concern about in Harrington Hills about AT&T doing some work that nobody seems to know about. I called our Department of Public Works Department, and they told me AT&T was doing work in regards to replacing their fiber optics out in Harrington Hills. And if you have the AT&T cable system in your home, they will certainly check it and making sure that once they replace the fiber optics, that the system worked in your home. So if somebody was knocking on your door and they wasn't properly identified, certainly exercise caution, call the police, make sure they're there. But I do know that the DPW department knew about the work that AT&T was doing in Harrington Hills, replacing their fiber optic cable. And lastly, just want to say happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I know some were celebrating because they've lost their mothers like me, and some were celebrating because mothers were still here. But either way, we hope you had a great and marvelous Mother's Day, and we will continue to hold you in our prayers, and that is all that District 5 has for now, sir.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kathleen James, your closing comments.
Yes, first of all, our Parks and Recreation Public Works Subcommittee meeting will be this coming Monday, May the 23rd at 12 noon in the Legislative Conference Room. And that's about it. That's about it for tonight.
Councilman Nicholson.
I don't understand the order. But I'm here for it. This Saturday, Mount Hope is having their flower planting, their spring flower planting. Please, if you're interested, there is free breakfast and lunch. That's at the corner of Voorhees and Orchard Lake Road, Mount Hope Cemetery. That's this Saturday, May 14th from 9 a.m. to noon. Wanted to thank the mayor and administration. I drove around. We've got a lot of brand new street signs all over District 2. They look amazing. No more smiley faces on signs that have been washed out. It was a creative way for us to brighten up the neighborhood, but I'm glad that they actually tell you what to do now. I do want to point out Tilden Street in Pioneer Highlands is actually spelled Tilden. The signs, when new signs say DON. I got an email this evening saying, I want the old sign back. You don't, because there was only 3 letters on it. What we want is the signs that say, and I believe there may have been 3 new ones that say they should say TILDEN, Tilden Avenue. Thank you, Mayor, for driving down Murphy and seeing all of the repairs that are going on there. And we'll have a good, friendly conversation with Water Resource Commission to make sure that it stays civil as what they do all of that work. Wanted to ask for a new street to drive down, the corner of Telegraph and Hazel. If you could drive all the way down Hazel, it's nearly impassable. I know the previous city engineer did give an idea, had said we've got some plans for that. I haven't gotten the details on what those are, but as neighbors are trying to turn down that, it's becoming more difficult. And there's really no other way to enter Pioneer Highlands other than to make an illegal turn onto James K., which is the Sylvan Lake Police Department, and they have a car nearly stationed there every day. So I want to make sure that we give them that opportunity so they don't have to go all the way up to Voorhees to get into their neighborhood. We've got a lot going on other than the signs being repaired. Orchard Lake Road has some brilliant new LED lights. So if you can, and if on your way home you want to drive down and see Orchard Lake Road at night, you can. It's amazing, very safe. Happy to see all of those things underway, and I'll keep sending more things. If we had some really great cleanups happen, the cleanups are still happening, and which is fantastic. Seeing the project going on down Huron. Huron seems to be one of those corridors that people pass through and just sort of chuck whatever they've got in their car out of the window. So I'm glad that those community groups are continuing that work down Huron. Big shout out to the Micah 6 community for their continued work down the Huron corridor. And we're just working on getting those quotes back so we can get those community projects rolling. Again, that's putting a nice barrier in front of Indian Village Park as it's on M59. Kids are very mobile, want to make sure they're safe when they're in the park. And then the end of the boulevard, or the end of the dead end at Winona Street at Telegraph and Voorhees, as it is right now. It's a very visible dead end. As people are hot rodding down our public streets, they could end up right in the middle of a very busy intersection. So we're looking at getting some nice planter bullards to put at the end of that to also frame a nice entrance to beautiful Ottawa Hills. So wanting to make sure that some of our neighborhoods that maybe are even unknown have some nice centerpieces around. So we're looking forward to our work with Goldner Walsh, one of our favorite community businesses, to make that a reality, and happy to have those community dollars to make that happen. We'll keep maximizing those to our best of our ability.
The woman, the myth, the legend. Happy birthday, Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford. Your closing comments.
Good evening, everyone. All right. Oh, thank you. So 40 to the 3, 40 to the 3rd. So I was watching my daughter graduate from Howard University, and as I screamed, as you saw on Facebook, from one end to the next, I asked the question to myself, will the real Melanie Rutherford show up? For 5 months, I've battled trying to just don't say a lot. Don't push the buttons. Don't ask the questions, because my whole life I'm always at war. I don't mean to be that way. It's just the way I'm built. I'm built to question things. I'm built to challenge things that don't make sense to me. And it is that resolve that has gotten my daughter through Howard University. It is that resolve that got me in this seat. It is that resolve that has made me understand I have to be me. And so instead of me wishing myself all of the wishes I have, I made a wish list for the city of Pontiac. My birthday wish is that we live in truth and we speak in truth, and even when we don't agree, that we don't become into petty politics. My birthday wish is that we learn to forgive and in time forget. My birthday wish is that when we have an olive branch, we pass it. My birthday wish is that we do everything to empower our citizens, not just to talk, but to give them the viability to live. My birthday wish is that every child experience what my daughter experienced, actually walking across the stage and knowing that a city was behind them. Because my daughter did not graduate just because of Melanie Rutherford. My daughter graduated because of the times when Mike McGinnis had to be there hearing me cry and saying, what am I going to do? She graduated because Kathy James, who didn't even know me, gave her a scholarship. She graduated because even when I didn't understand a thing and she was trying to do some things, Mr. Grimo so graciously gave money for her to go to China. She graduated because Quincy Stewart donated his time to tell her she was enough. She graduated because Kafani Stevens, who I've known since I was 16 years old, has always been her biggest cheerleader. And I put it on display because I want everybody to know the power we have in the city of Pontiac when we empower everybody. And so I'm sorry. And Pastor Johnson, I always forget you. My bad. I saw that. I get it. It's okay. It's okay. But my last birthday wish is that we just be our authentic selves. And even when people don't agree, be able to stand 10 toes down and say, I spoke the truth, I lived in truth, and I am the truth. And so I just want to thank everybody from the sounds of my voice who have helped me raise the baddest chick in the game wearing my last name. And that is my birthday wish for Pontiac. And for that, I say good night and come eat some cake. Peace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike McGinnis. I want to thank the citizens of District 7 who came out for our East Side community meeting this week. It was our largest turnout so far this year. Each month we have a larger crowd. And so, if you want to be where the action is, save the date for the second Monday of every month. And that next meeting is June 13th, 7 o'clock p.m. at Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. Same time, place, and location. Place and location, those are the same thing. But same day of the month, same time, same location. Please spread the word. Very informative, very invigorating. We covered a lot of ground, but we identified a lot of challenges that we have on the east side that we want our neighborhoods to be cleaner, safer, more prosperous, and just a good, safe, healthy, fun time for everyone that lives there. I want to thank the administration and contractors who followed through on streetlight replacements for Auburn Avenue near Martin Luther King. It was very dark. Those have been replaced or repaired. Same for the median on Woodward Avenue. There are many more that I have submitted, and I'll keep watching. But please let us know if there are any other burned out or knocked down streetlights, because it makes a significant difference for pedestrian safety, for bicyclist safety, for vehicular safety if you're driving or just a passenger, but also just our neighborhoods, because obviously trees, streetlights, houses, gates to cemeteries, they can get hit too, especially if visibility is bad. The question was asked about bicyclists on sidewalks. This is a wild situation, but fun fact or wild fact, in Michigan, it is against the law for anyone over the age of 13 to ride their bicycle on the sidewalk, which is part of the reason why the state is very focused on creating alternative routes. And I get the thought process is that if you have a pedestrian and they're hit by a bike going 10, 15 miles an hour, I don't know if that's how fast bikes go, but it could be really a safety issue. And so, but it is obviously legal for children, 13 and under, to ride a bicycle. But that's part of the reason why we're going to try and, wherever possible, improve non-motorized transportation options throughout the community, not on streets. We want it to be safe, secure, dedicated, so when we're looking at Pike and Auburn and the Woodward Loop and all these other elements, that it can be for people walking or bicycling, that it can be safe for them, safe for people that are using other forms of transportation. But in Pontiac, we have a serious issue where we have double the number of people that are hit and killed, both on foot or on bicycle. And so we have to be very strategic and intentional about every decision we make to avoid that, because every life is precious, and we do not want to create less safe circumstances when we can avoid it. I've run out the clock. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Support.
It's been moved by Rutherford, seconded by Nicholson on adjournment. Hearing no discussion, roll call on adjournment. Clerk Doyle.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We are stand adjourned at 8:37 p.m. Have a safe, healthy, happy week to come. We'll see you soon. And if you're in this council chambers, there are cake and Nick's Corner chicken in the council chambers for Councilman Rutherford's birthday.
Let's go.
County has wine too.
I do. I have
Break that
liquor in
open.
my. I'm honest about my water. Liquor.
Because I didn't bring a knife. I forgot.